A tweet by Melissa Sherman Esquire caught my attention, and she said, quote, "Let me get this straight. Joe Manchin's wife got a White House appointment to serve on the ARC, his son runs his coal company, and his daughter is overinflating the price of EpiPens, but it's the poor parents in West Virginia that are going to misuse the child tax credit money?" He's also the chair of the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, even though he is still heavily invested in his coal company. End quote. Yes, I checked the facts, and it's all true. Joe Manchin's wife was appointed by Joe Biden to co-chair the Appalachian Regional Commission. That's the ARC, an economic development partnership involving the federal government and 13 states. She was appointed unanimously by the Senate back in April of this year. Forbes reported at the time that her appointment by Biden was seen by many observers as a nod to Manchin's importance in passing the White House's legislative agenda. Also, Jacobin magazine reports that in 2014, Heather Bresch was named one of Fortune magazine's 50 most powerful women in business, as she was the CEO of the pharmaceutical company Mylan, which controls the rights to the EpiPen. Heather Bresch, you see, is Joe Manchin's daughter. But documents that are part of an antitrust lawsuit against Mylan reveal emails in which Bresch approved a scheme to force Mylan's customers to purchase 2 EpiPens at once, whether they needed to or not. Bresch worked with the CEO of Pfizer to concoct this scheme and to keep the prices of the EpiPen artificially high, raising the price to more than $600. Oh, and then Mama Manchin, the same one who is the co-chair of the ARC appointed by Biden, she lobbied states to require schools to stock the EpiPens when she was the head of the National Association of State Boards of Education. Then, Mylan, the company, was also fined $465 million for Medicaid fraud under Bresch's tenure, which ended in 2002 when she stepped down. Oh, but don't feel bad for her because she left with a $37.6 million severance package. And Manchin also got his money's worth out of helping his daughter get the gig at Mylan, because he did, since Mylan was one of his largest campaign contributors when his daughter was CEO. And yes, Joe Coal Baron Manchin is in fact the chairman of the Senate Committee on Energy and Natural Resources, which is actually fitting because this committee really exists to exploit natural resources for energy production, and not in a good way. The committee's website says its, quote, far-reaching legislative activity can be described in the following major areas: energy resources and development, including regulation, conservation, strategic petroleum reserves and appliance standards, nuclear energy, Indian affairs, public lands and their renewable resources, surface mining, federal coal, oil and gas, and other mineral leasing, territories and insular possessions, and water resources. Manchin has been a member of the committee since 2010 when he was elected to the Senate, but he was appointed chair when, you guessed it, Joe Biden's administration began in 2021. So not only has Joe Manchin cashed in on Biden's presidency, but his family members have as well. But working in poor families, well, they get accused of wanting to buy drugs with child tax credit money, so none of y'all get any Build Back Better anything, while Manchin and his family are rolling in your dough. Politico reports that despite being warned that letting the student loan payment moratorium expire is a very serious political mistake that they're about to be making, Joe Biden appears poised to let it do just that. Many have argued that Biden can cancel student loan debt with an executive order and cite the Higher Education Act of 1965 as their reasoning. The law grants a presidential administration via the Education Secretary authority to, quote, enforce, pay, compromise, waive, or release government-held federal student loans. This was the legal basis for Trump and Biden to pause student loan payments during the coronavirus pandemic in the first place. But some say this law does not give presidents authority to cancel consumer debt to government agency. But a different law, the Federal Claims Collection Act, provides federal agencies with the authority to collect or compromise claims and suspend or terminate collection action. However, this law imposes a high standard for when the government can compromise a debt to narrow circumstances like when the debtor is unable to pay and that inability is verified, or when the cost to collect the debt would be too high to justify the collection. Well, if that's true, if the standard for all of those debts is too high to meet to dispatch, then how did all those PPP loans get forgiven by the Small Business Administration? Maybe the law is unclear about whether Biden can cancel student debt with an executive order. I don't know. Maybe it is. But what is very clear is that Biden does have the authority to extend the repayment moratorium immediately. But he so far is adamantly opposed to doing even that because, like his friend Joe Manchin, Joe Biden really doesn't care about you little people either. The revolution's main objective is to destroy imperialist domination and exploitation. These are the words of Thomas Sankara, revolutionary Marxist president of Burkina Faso, who was assassinated in 1987 after 4 years as president, but not before he redistributed land, expanded access to education, and initiated vaccination campaigns and social reforms like ending female genital mutilation and polygamy. Sankara renamed the country, changing it from Upper Volta, as labeled by former colonizer France, to Burkina Faso, which means the land of upright people in Moor, the language of the country's largest ethnic group. Today, Blaise Compaoré and 13 other men involved in Sankara's assassination are finally on trial for their roles. But sadly, the true masterminds behind the assassination of Thomas Sankara won't be called to the stand. The former colonial power France and its Western conspirator in imperialism, the United States. Sankara said that while revolutionaries as individuals can be murdered, you cannot kill ideas.